The small Texas town of Canyon Ridge looked peaceful from the outside, sunset skies, old diners, and quiet roads winding between the hills. But inside one modest blue-painted house on the edge of town, 17-year-old Emily Parker was living through her own private hell. Her mother had died 2 years earlier, and her stepfather, Rick, had turned the once warm home into a prison. Rick was a man who believed fear was power. He controlled everything: what Emily ate, when she slept, even who she spoke to. His temper could explode over the smallest things: a misplaced glass, a late dinner, a quiet answer. Bruises covered her arms, and though she tried to hide them with long sleeves, everyone in town had begun to suspect something wasn't right. But Rick had a charm that fooled people easily. He smiled wide at the diner, tipped big, and made sure no one saw the monster beneath the mask. One Friday night, after another violent outburst, Emily couldn't take it anymore. Her cheek was swollen, and her spirit was breaking. She slipped out of her window and ran barefoot through the cool night air. Tears blurred her vision as she ran toward the Route 67 diner, a dusty roadside stop known for one thing: the Hells Angels who often rode through town on their way south. That night, the familiar roar of Harley engines filled the diner's parking lot. The ground seemed to shake as the bikers parked their gleaming motorcycles. Among them was Diesel, their leader, a tall man with silver hair, a thick beard, and eyes that had seen too much of the world. Despite his intimidating look, there was a quiet strength about him, a kind of unspoken code of justice. Emily hesitated at the door, her heart pounding so loud she thought everyone could hear it. When she finally walked in, the chatter faded. Her clothes were torn, her face pale, and her eyes full of fear. She took a shaky breath and walked toward Diesel's table. He looked up slowly. "You lost, sweetheart?" he asked, his tone gentle but wary. Emily's voice trembled. "Please, help me," she whispered. He won't stop." The room went still. Every biker there could feel the weight of her words. Diesel motioned for her to sit, sliding his leather jacket off and draping it over her shoulders. "Who did this?" he asked quietly. "My stepfather," she said, her lip trembling. "He hits me, and he says no one will ever believe me." Diesel exchanged a glance with one of his brothers, Tank, who clenched his fists in silent rage. "A man who hurts a child," Diesel muttered, "ain't a man at all." He looked back at Emily. "You're safe now, kid. We'll take care of this." Tears streamed down her face as she buried her head in her hands. For the first time in years, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long, long time: hope. Outside, the engines roared again, louder this time. The Hells Angels were gearing up, and somewhere in the dark, Rick's reckoning was on its way. The following evening, the quiet street outside Emily's home was filled with the deep, thunderous sound of Harley-Davidsons. The neighbors peeked through their curtains, wondering what brought the notorious Hells Angels to this sleepy Texas neighborhood. The air was thick with tension, and every rumble of the engines seemed to echo like a warning. Inside, Rick sat on his recliner, a half-empty beer can in his hand, watching a football game. When he heard the noise, he frowned and stumbled outside, shouting, "What the hell's going on?" That's when he saw them: Diesel, Tank, and a dozen other bikers standing in the street, their leather jackets glinting under the streetlights, the Hells Angels insignia bold across their backs. Diesel stepped forward, towering, calm, and deadly serious. Rick tried to puff himself up. "You got a problem, old man," he sneered. Diesel's voice was low and steady. "Yeah," he said, taking a step closer. "I got a problem with men who hit little girls." Rick froze. His bravado faltered as his eyes darted around, realizing Emily had told someone. He laughed nervously. "You don't know what you're talking about. That girl lies." Before he could finish, Tank took one intimidating step forward, cracking his knuckles. "Careful what you say," he warned. "We don't take kindly to liars, especially the kind that hurt kids." Rick backed away toward the porch. "You can't touch me. I'll call the cops." Diesel smirked. "Funny thing," he said. "We already did." At that moment, headlights appeared down the road, two sheriff's cruisers. They pulled up quietly, and out stepped Sheriff Collins, a longtime friend of Diesel's. He'd gotten a call from the biker leader just hours earlier, along with evidence Diesel's crew had collected: photos, bruises, medical reports Emily had been too scared to turn in. Rick tried to bolt, but Tank grabbed him by the arm and shoved him toward the sheriff. "He's all yours," Diesel said coldly. As the officers cuffed Rick, he shouted, "You think this changes anything? I'll be out." Diesel leaned close enough for Rick to see the fire in his eyes. If you ever come near her again, he said, voice low and dangerous, you won't be dealing with the law next time, you'll be dealing with us. Rick was shoved into the back of the cruiser, still yelling, but his words were drowned out by the sound of roaring engines. Emily stood on the porch, tears glistening on her cheeks as she watched the man who'd made her life miserable finally taken away. Diesel walked up to her, pulled something from his vest pocket, a small silver angel pin, and placed it in her hand. This means you've got family now, he said. We look after our own. Emily nodded, unable to speak, her voice choked with emotion. The bikers revved their engines and one by one rode off into the night, leaving behind only the sound of thunder and the faint smell of gasoline. For the first time in years, Emily looked up at the stars and smiled. She was finally free, thanks to the angels who rode on two wheels.